Donovan with the sheepskin noseband. Right up there in the early stages with 10 Cherries over on the far side. Talon right up there and Ursa on the near side. And it's Venture de Cognac and Talon. Then comes Lakin just in behind them with Ursa and Further Thought and Mr. Donovan. And Borderberg has gone there. He's recovered. He's recovered. My goodness, that was a recovery. That was some recovery. So they go up to the next. That was Peter Greenhall. And so as they run up to the third, it's Venture de Cognac from Talon. Further Thought on the inside, then Ursa, then comes Lakin. Then on the outside is the grey Dart Over. On the inner 10 Cherries, then Village Mark. The back markers at the moment are Dull Light and Dicky Blob. So running down to the water now, Venture de Cognac from Talon and Further Thought. Borderberg, who so nearly went, that was an amazing recovery. At the second is back up there in fourth now. Then comes Lakin and Ursa and Mr. Donovan just in behind them as they jump the first ditch. And all safely over it. Plane 1, Venture de Cognac from Talon and Further Thought. Then comes Lakin. Just behind Lakin is Borderberg, then Village Mark and Ursa as they come to another ditch. Venture de Cognac lands in the lead from the John. Further Thought, then Talon, Borderberg and Lakin racing to the top of the hill. That's the 8th of the 22 fences, and still Venture de Cognac, with one or two of them finding this pace just a bit too hot for them. Dicky Blob is tailed off, and Dull Light, topically named this afternoon, is one from last. This is the 9th. Venture de Cognac jumps into the right of the picture. Mistake there by the grey in the background, Dart Over. Venture de Cognac as they run downhill towards the next. Over the 10th, Venture de Cognac. Talon and Mr. Donovan made progress just in behind him. Then comes Lakin, Further Thought and Borderberg. Then Attitude Adjuster. Behind him is Village Mark as they run down to the next. Talon, the chestnut in the center. On the far side, Venture de Cognac with the breast girth and the sheepskin noseband nearer to us, Mr. Donovan. Then Further Thought and Borderberg and Lakin in Attitude Adjuster. Then Village Mark, then Ellie Oggerty and 10 Cherries. Over the 12th, Mr. Donovan and Talon from Venture de Cognac on the inside. Then Lakin, Borderberg and Further Thought, this big Further Thought traveling very smoothly at the moment. Attitude Adjuster behind him, and then Ellie Oggerty. Behind Ellie Oggerty is Village Mark, and then 10 Cherries. And then comes the grey Borderberg. And behind Borderberg is Ursa, then a long gap to Dull Light, and a still further long gap to Dicky Blob. But all 14 still standing as they run down towards the next fence. This is the 13th. Mr. Donovan on the outside, Talon in the center. On the near side is Venture de Cognac. Then comes Further Thought, Attitude Adjuster and Borderberg, and Lakin and Ellie Oggerty as they jump the water for the last time. And still closely grouped up front. The third of the 4 ditches. Venture de Cognac on the inside. Borderberg going right up there on the outside. Ellie Oggerty are fallen there. Ellie Oggerty and Carolyn Beasley are out of it. Carolyn's up on her feet all right. The horse is all right too. That was the 16th. Venture de Cognac led from Mr. Donovan and Borderberg. And a bad mistake by Lakin there. Attitude Adjuster has moved much closer to the lead as they come to the final ditch now. Venture de Cognac and Mr. Donovan, 6 from home. Attitude Adjuster, Mr. Donovan's great rival back in Ireland. Very close now to the action. There was a blunder there by Border Berg. Further Thought is back in fourth. 5 from home. Venture to Cognac from Mr. Donovan. Then comes Attitude Adjuster in third. Fourth, and quite close to them still, is Further Thought. Then a gap to Border Berg as they begin the run downhill. 4 left to jump. Mr. Donovan and Venture to Cognac. Venture to Cognac and Mr. Donovan almost together, from Attitude Adjuster in third, then Border Berg in fourth. Mr. Donovan on the far side of Venture to Cognac, Attitude Adjuster, the pale colours between them as we see them at the moment. Mr. Donovan and Venture to Cognac land together. Mr. Donovan, the sheepskin noseband, getting a reminder there from Frank Codd. Venture to Cognac on the far side, Paul Webber, these two being chased now all the time by Attitude Adjuster and Further Thought. Mr. Donovan with a fractional advantage now, being chased by Attitude Adjuster as Venture to Cognac begins to fade. And now they're running down to the second last, and as they do so, it's Mr. Donovan on the far side, Attitude Adjuster on the near side. There's nothing between the two. Attitude Adjuster on the near side, Mr. Donovan on the far side. Further Thought finishing well in third, coming to the final fence now. Attitude Adjuster, the leader now from Further Thought, and Mr. Donovan. Attitude Adjuster lands in the lead, retired Mr. Donovan. Further Thought trying to produce a run towards the stand side. It's Attitude Adjuster and Ted Walsh being pressed all the time by Tim Thompson-Jones on Further Thought. Attitude Adjuster for Ireland, from Further Thought for England as they come to the line. Attitude Adjuster has won it, Further Thought is second, Mr. Donovan is third, and Venture to Cognac is fourth. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Christies Foxhunters Challenge Cup. So the result: first, number 1, Attitude Adjuster, owned by Mrs. J.M. Magna, trained by Mouse Morris, is second winner of the meeting, ridden by Mr. Ted Walsh. Second was number 8, Further Thought, owned by Mrs. Vera Vandenberg, trained by her, or really in Anne Underwood's livery yard, and ridden by Tim Thompson-Jones. And third, number 10, Mr. Donovan, owned by Mr. J.P. McManus, trained by Eddie O'Grady, and ridden by Mr. Frank Codd. Fourth was number 15, Venture to Cognac. This is the winner, Attitude Adjuster.
It had been a super race from right from the start. They all had a crack here. But turning for home, it's the 2 Irish horses, Mr. Donovan on the inside and Attitude Adjuster nearest to us. Both get a good jump there. Ted Walsh riding in the yellow colours, but look at the ominously big figure looming up there of Further Thought back in third place. And Venture to Cognac just weakening. Well, this one is the second winner for Mouse Morris, who won with Buckhouse yesterday, and running in the colours of Susan Magna, who is, of course, the daughter of the great trainer Vincent O'Brien. So there'll be some celebration today, and I should think that they're one of the few people able to fill this huge cup up with the very best champagne. Here, as they come to the hill, he's not a very big horse, Attitude Adjuster, but you can see that Ted Walsh is only flicking his whip at him, and so he knows that there's plenty left, because when Ted gets stuck in, he doesn't play the banjo quite like he's doing now. Behind him, Further Thought is really plugging on, but not actually able to finish at all. But he's run a superb race, and it was a good win, the second one for Mouse Morris in 2 days. Attitude Adjuster, the 10-to-1.